On the evening of the 30th of August 2025, at 7:31 p.m., an Aurora police officer initiated a traffic stop on East 6th Avenue in Aurora, Colorado. The officer had observed a traffic violation and attempted to pull over the driver. What began as a routine stop changed in moments when the driver failed to comply and struck another vehicle traveling eastbound. The impact disrupted the flow of traffic and created immediate danger for the surrounding motorists. Following the initial collision, the situation escalated quickly. The driver's vehicle crossed over the median, separating the lanes of East 6th Avenue. Losing control, the vehicle collided with a second car that had been traveling westbound. The dual collisions created a chaotic scene, scattering debris across lanes and leaving two separate crash sites within a very short distance of each other. Traffic along both directions of the roadway came to a sudden halt as the severity of the collisions became clear. The officer who initiated the traffic stop immediately repositioned himself and approached the crashed vehicle. He moved with caution, aware that the driver had already acted unpredictably by failing to stop and causing two collisions within seconds. The roadway around him was filled with disabled vehicles, stunned drivers, and the noise of engines and metal settling after impact. The officer needed to quickly assess the driver while ensuring that no further danger developed. As the officer neared the vehicle, he began issuing commands to the man inside. The immediate goal was to bring the driver under control and determine his condition following the crashes. Traffic stop encounters often change rapidly, and this one had already escalated dramatically. The man exited the vehicle, but instead of complying or responding to the officer's instructions, he disregarded the commands entirely. The collision scene had now shifted from a traffic incident to a potential threat situation. The officer quickly realized that he was no longer dealing with a cooperative driver, but with an individual who was acting confrontationally after two vehicle impacts. The officer attempted to create distance and continue giving commands, but the man did not respond. This initial phase of the encounter set the stage for the confrontation that followed, one that would escalate from a traffic violation to a fatal officer-involved shooting in a matter of minutes. After exiting the vehicle, the man continued to ignore the officer's commands. Instead of complying, he moved toward the officer in a manner that signaled the potential for physical conflict. The officer attempted to maintain distance while trying to de-escalate the situation through continued verbal instructions. Despite the damaged vehicles around them and the danger posed by the busy roadway, the man advanced with no indication that he intended to cooperate. A physical altercation followed as the man closed the distance. The officer was forced to defend himself while also remaining aware of the surrounding hazards created by the crash scene. During the struggle, the officer's attention was drawn to an object on the ground near the man. In the midst of the movements and shifting positions, the officer identified it as a firearm. At that moment, the presence of the firearm changed the nature of the encounter. Although the man was not holding the weapon, the gun's proximity to both individuals created a rapidly escalating threat. The officer knew that if the man gained control of the firearm or used the chaos of the fight to reach for it, the situation could become deadly within seconds. The man continued advancing toward the officer, despite repeated commands. His body posture shifted into a fighting stance, signaling clear intent to continue the confrontation. The officer backed away in an attempt to increase distance and avoid being overwhelmed, but the man did not retreat. The ongoing disregard for commands, combined with the nearby firearm, placed the officer in a critical position. In confrontations like this, officers must make rapid assessments based on the totality of the situation: the suspect's aggression, refusal to comply, the presence of a weapon, and the risk of being disarmed or overpowered. As the man advanced in an aggressive stance, with a firearm lying within immediate reach, the threat level had reached its peak. The officer, still backing away and giving commands, was forced to respond to the escalating danger. He fired his weapon, striking the man. The gunfire brought the physical altercation to an end and created a momentary pause in the chaotic roadway environment. Other officers began arriving within moments, responding to the initial crash call and the now unfolding officer-involved shooting. The scene shifted once again, this time towards securing the suspect, managing the roadway, and preparing for emergency medical care. Following the shooting, the arriving officers immediately moved in to assist. Their first priority was to secure the firearm on the ground to prevent any further risk. Once that was done, they focused on providing medical aid to the man who had been shot. Officers rendered first aid while awaiting medical personnel, applying their training to stabilize him as much as possible at the scene. Medical responders soon arrived and continued treatment. Despite the efforts of both police and paramedics, the man's injuries proved fatal. He was pronounced deceased at the scene. The roadway, already disrupted by the two collisions, became a combined traffic accident and shooting investigation area. Multiple lanes remained closed as personnel secured the perimeter and began documenting evidence. While medical responders worked, supervisors arrived to ensure that proper protocols were followed. The officer involved in the shooting was placed on paid administrative leave, which is standard procedure in incidents involving deadly force. This step ensured that the upcoming investigative processes could proceed without interruption and provided the officer time to undergo required evaluations. Investigators began reconstructing the timeline of events. They documented the crash scenes, the placement of vehicles, the location of the firearm, and the positions of the officer and the man during the confrontation. Witnesses from both directions of traffic were interviewed, as several motorists had seen parts of the crash and the encounter that followed. Their statements helped confirm the sequence: the traffic violation attempt, the initial collision, the median crossing, the second collision, the exit from the vehicle, the altercation, the discovery of the firearm, and the final confrontation. The investigation remained active and ongoing, handled by the appropriate oversight divisions responsible for reviewing officer-involved shootings in Aurora. Their focus included evaluating the officer's actions in relation to department policy, the presence of the firearm, the man's behavior, and the threat level at each stage of the encounter. The scene on East 6th Avenue gradually cleared as the investigation continued, but the impact of the incident lingered. What began as a routine traffic stop evolved rapidly into a multi-vehicle crash, a physical altercation, the discovery of a firearm, and a fatal shooting. The incident left behind a complex chain of events now being examined in full detail to determine the final official findings.